This is going to be fun. Right, shall we get started then? Shall I do the magic five? Magic five.
Do the thing.
Amazing. Do the Wayne's World. No, I go five. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another E5 podcast. Today we have a special one. I am one of your hosts, Paul Meenan, and I am joined as ever by my tag team partner, my brother from another mother, Mr. John Ward. Hello, JW. How are you?
Hello. Yeah, we're all right.
Awesome. Today we have I would say an amazingly special guest, because when I read up on this lady, I was blown away by what she had achieved. So I'd like to introduce to this podcast Shrouk el Attar. She is from Egypt originally and residing in Cardiff in Wales. It's a shame Paul Skirm, our resident Welsh E5 member, is not on this. And you have been nationally, well, no, you've not just been nationally recognised. You've been recognised by the UN. You've been recognised by the IET Top 6 Young Women Engineers of the UK 2019, which puts her in the same category as me, medal winner IET, which is really cool. You're an electronic engineer speaking to two electricians. So this is going to be quite an interesting podcast. So thank you for coming, Shrouk. And would you like to just maybe tell everybody listening or watching a little bit more about yourself?
Hi, I'm so excited. I have no idea what's about to happen. My name is Shrouk el Attar, or actually my full name is Shrouk Mohammed Ibrahim Mahmoud Mustafa Al-Attar. Have fun learning that. Maybe you can kind of pause it and rewind and rewind. I am an engineer by day, belly dancer by night. I've done some really cool things that I'm proud of in engineering, but I've also performed as a belly dancer around the world. I've danced in places as far as India, as far as Japan, and I love doing both things.
So I'm gonna shock everyone listening to this now, but I actually have some knowledge of belly dancing, and not Googled. Yeah, because many years ago. By the way, I'm not talking about this belly here that dances, because there's enough of it there. But I actually, believe it or not, I went to Canada a number of years ago to see a member of my family, and obviously I'd badly timed it. It was my fault. And she said, "Oh, I got off the plane." She went, "Quick, we're going to be late." And I was like, "Where are we going?" And she was participating in the history of belly dancing. It was a event at a local Saskatchewan university. So I literally got off the plane with my bags in a car, drove to university, and watched this 3-hour long history of belly dancing, and it was brilliant because it explained. This is me confessing a part of me nobody knows. But it was basically scenes set in different parts of history, showing how belly dancing is not a new thing, and it goes back hundreds, if not thousands of years, as a form of art and entertainment and exercise, and how different parts of the world had adopted and adapted it for various reasons. So that was my first day in Canada. I was like blown away. I was like, "Oh, this belly dance is quite cool."
That's so beautiful that it was about the history of belly, because I feel a lot of people today in the West get into belly dancing and kind of change it a little bit, which is fine, but don't really understand kind of its history or its significance, or maybe not really sure what the authentic stuff looks like. And it kind of, when I watched that, so I've been to a couple of belly dance classes in the UK, and they were teaching kind of the moves, and they had names to the moves. And it was just not, a belly dance is not that technical, this is not what I grew up with. This is not my culture. Mm-hmm. And I'm completely happy with that existing, as long as there's a recognition of actually that's not the roots. So knowing that your introduction to the belly dance community is the history.
There you go. Dude, I know. I tell you what, I came out of that blown away, and I went in there thinking, belly dancing, not for me, I'm a bloke. And by the end of it, I was like, that was awesome. That was so visually amazing. Good story, good history. So if anybody out there does a production, I would recommend you go and see it. Although I think a lot of people listening to this, electricians sitting in their vans going, what is Meenan talking about? I'm now going to visualize Meenan with his big gut doing belly dancing. Don't worry, I don't do it. Although my missus, she does actually do a little bit of it as well. So, but anyway, moving on, my confession. You are an electronics engineer. You work at, where is it you work at again? Is it
LV, yeah. You work
LV?
at the baddest fast company in the world.
Okay, so tell us what you do as a job in your wonderful world as an electronics engineer.
So I've done literally, I think like being an electronic engineer means you can do whatever you want. I've built robots for a living. I've built a system that can detect cancer. I've built a system that helps with eye surgery. And right now I make technologies primarily for women, but anybody with female anatomy is stereotypically female. So it could be transgender men or some non-binary people. Yeah, it improves people's lives. So for example, I'm working on a silent breast pump right now. I'm not sure if you've heard a breast pump in action before. These things are loud. They are
No,
loud.
I haven't. Be still my mind. Be still my mind. No, I haven't ever seen a breast pump in action. Yeah, no.
They are not practical. They're not. So the kind of traditional breast pump is built on the original design for cows. You know, it wasn't built for humans.
Yeah, my family are cattle farmers in Ireland, and when I was there every August of my young life, we would have to round up cows and milk them or put them in the machines and watch those machines pumping away. And you're right, actually, the industrial ones are deafening. They are absolutely, the pressure that they have to put to get the milk out of the cows is unbearable.
They're long and it's just so the ones that so I'm making the second iteration of that, but the ones that exist in my company right now are breast shaped, so you can just put them in your bra, and you can just go about your day. You can just go to your meeting, you can go out for a walk, you can go to the shops while breast pumping, which is really life changing for a lot of people. And just reading the reviews and seeing how what I make is so revolutionary to a lot of people, it's just beautiful.
I think if you do anything that you can leave behind, it's amazing. I mean, I've always said this to the guys, and every time I go past it, there's an arena called Excel in East London, and every time I go past it, I look at it and I go, I wired all the lights on that. I wired all the lights outside. It's still there. 20 years later, I did that. Nobody else did that. I did that. It was just me on a freezing winter night doing all the wiring. So it's always nice to have a legacy of what you do. But so you do electronics, you build stuff. John, have you ever built a robot or anything like that, or done anything to that extreme?
No, I've got to say, I haven't done any of that. So I've not built robots or done anything along those lines at all.
No, but you have built rigs and stuff to blow stuff up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you build it, John will destroy it. Trust me. John is awesome at testing things to destruction. So you have so you're an electronics engineer. You're born in Egypt. You live in Cardiff. You came here obviously as an immigrant. You've gone through schooling here. You've done a degree in electronic engineering. You've done your master's in electronic engineering as well. Do you mind me asking how old you? Well, you do loads of things. Let's put you've done lecturing. You've done all sorts of things. Now I know it's rude for a gentleman to ask a lady her age. You what?
You've really looked me up.
Oh no, I literally spent hours researching because I didn't want to sound stupid. So I'm trying to be a fountain of knowledge.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind. I actually I moved to Bristol. I live in Bristol now. I live over the other side of the bridge. I'm in England. Not sure how I feel about that.
So I was born here. I have to put up with it. So try Tottenham. That's a hell of a place.
Oh, that's funny. Sorry, you asked me how old I am. I just turned 28 last weekend.
Fantastic. And this is one of the things I love as well, because I got chartered engineer, and this is one of the things I always say to people. I got chartered engineer and I got fellow of the IET before I was 40. So I was in this thing called the under 50 club, because there was less than 50 people who were fellows by the time they were 40. And you did see and you felt prejudices, because people didn't believe you had done enough to deserve it. But for anyone listening who wants to know more or watching, you have your own Wikipedia page, man. I found you on Wikipedia and I was like, I don't have a Wikipedia page. You've got your own Wikipedia page. So if anyone wants to know more about Shrouk, there is a Wikipedia page. It's fascinating insight into what you do. But what I want to talk about is, you've just briefly mentioned it. You created a machine that can help detect cancer. So before we go into that, anyone listening who thinking, we're not talking about electrical installations today. No, because what we're doing in this podcast, we're trying to broaden it so that anybody listening who wants to level up their CPD or diversify in their knowledge, we're trying to show everybody that anyone can be anything they want to be in this series. And the best way of doing it is getting amazing people from around the country to come in and talk about their experiences. This series is a little bit different. And what better than to go to some of the amazing ladies around the industry, which is why in this series we're not just overweight, grey-haired electricians. We've got some amazing women on this series as well. So back to you, Shrouk. So I've got to read this off my screen. You created, you researched electron spin resonance. Yes. And you created new methods to identify organic material based on electron quantum spin. Try saying that 10 times, John, if you've had a drink. Which then, so does this help detect cancer? Can you explain this to us? Because this is...
Let's start over. So there's this thing called electron spin resonance, ESR. You could also, some people will call it electron paramagnetic resonance, EPR. They're the same thing, okay? So actually ESR has existed for a long time. It's existed since the 1940s. But these machines, so let me tell you something. Have you heard of NMR or maybe MRI before?
MRI is very familiar with. I actually know a guy who's done a master's degree in MRI and commissions MRI imaging suites as a hobby.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah, he's got a doctorate in MRI stuff.
Well, I mean, he would know what I'm talking about then, hopefully. So it's actually a bit closer to NMR, but since most people know MRI, so MRI can identify what we're looking at by resonating the water molecules, vibrating the water molecules, okay? What we do in ESR is, instead of water, we are exciting the electrons themselves. So the ESR machines that have existed before are huge. You've seen an MRI machine before, right? Okay.
I have been in one. I have had one every year for about 4 years, and every single time I came out, and as I sat up, I went, ping, microwaves overdone me.
They are scary, aren't they? They're scary.
They are very. You have to fall asleep in them because you do get coffin syndrome in them. It's very scary stuff. But please continue. Sorry.
But anyway, so ESR machines are quite big, and they also cost hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions of pounds. And what I did was miniaturize this. So I came up with was about 1 meter square. I was part of a research team, so I did this with other people too, who are really incredible. And it only cost £300 to make. So that's a huge difference, right?
Yeah, that is a huge difference, isn't it? I mean, that's not a small difference at all, is it? I mean, that seems like
3 million of the Queen's pounds, or 300 of the Queen's pounds. Do you know what? Knowing the NHS, they'd say, "Can I have 3 million, please? Because I've got to spend my budget." God bless the NHS.
But, yeah, that was pretty exciting. So where do we start then? So let me tell you, there's like trying to figure out what to miniaturize, and this is what really, really annoys me, is almost everything already existed. Mm-hmm. I didn't make anything new. I just knew what was there and put it together to make something that does the same job in a smaller package. So first thing, I looked at the magnets. So you need a magnetic field and you need some microwaves, okay? So when you're looking at an organic material with free electrons, something we call free radicals. So at a certain magnetic field and a certain frequency combination, you'll get something called resonance. And that's kind of the material's natural vibration. So it will absorb a lot of energy and you will see a spike. And for each different organic material, that will be kind of the fingerprints. So for each one, it will be different. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, it does actually. You get resonance in RCDs, which is an electrical protective device that gets effectively when you get a transformer core that gets saturated with DC, it affects the stability of the electromagnetic field. So yeah, we get it in electrical installations. We're getting it constantly in electrical installations. I think it's fair to say, John, it's become a huge problem now that all this new electronics we're plugging into our houses. Many years ago, it's a little bit of CPD for you. So many years ago, we invented this thing called a residual current device that basically detects any leakage from a energized conductor, and that's great. It's all about a stable electromagnetic field. We never predicted 20 years later that you have all these microelectronics and inverter drives that can cause a DC component leakage, which then feeds itself back into that transformer and basically shifts the sine wave and basically blinds or saturates it so that if there is a fault, it won't see it. So we're actually making our electrical installations dangerous with the new technology. And that's currently like a #1 topic of conversation in electrical installations at the moment. But yeah, so it has its electrical installation meaning as well. Anyway, apologies, please carry on.
But it's so great how like kind of meanings transfer over industries or over fields. But yeah, it's all got the same root really in the end. But the biggest thing, or one of the biggest things about this machine that was built in the 40s and we've been using until not that long ago, is it had huge electromagnets because we needed a big magnetism. But actually just looking at the tech that exists today, instead of those 1 meter diameter electromagnets, I can just find very tiny, small permanent magnets that were like 3 millimeter in diameter. And that's not something I invented. It was just there. And it's like, why aren't people aware of this? Why aren't people miniaturizing this? And it's kind of crazy. But once that was miniaturized, everything else could be miniaturized because you didn't need huge power to power the huge kind of electromagnets anymore. So to get that resonance frequency, to get that resonance absorption, that fingerprint, you either keep the magnetism constant and then do a frequency sweep until there's this spike, or the other way around. So you could keep the frequency constant and then do a magnetic sweep. So at first I had a constant frequency, and then literally by doing a magnetic sweep, I just mechanically moved two magnets far away and close to each other, far away and close to each other. And then the other way around is I use a voltage-controlled oscillator. Are you familiar with this sort of stuff?
I think Mr. Ward has probably half a
Some of
dozen.
it, yes.
I think John's got a few sat behind him.
So it's just literally an oscillator. You put some voltages in it and you get different frequencies out, so you can control that too. But it was just dealing with microwaves is it's voodoo, it's magic. So I'm not sure if you've heard. So like if you look at a printed circuit board, usually people use FR4 material. Have you heard of that? The FR4?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at a circuit board, it's usually made using FR4. I couldn't do that because microwaves are crazy. I had to use something else with like a different relative permeability because the microwaves were so high and we didn't want them to get absorbed by anything else. So that was that was definitely a learning curve.
You can get, and it's weird though, you say about you didn't invent anything new, and I think that's one of the things. There's a couple of issues there. So one, I've recently discovered miniature super strong magnets you can get on Amazon and eBay now that are stronger than some of the big chunky ones. They're incredibly powerful. You stick them on a whiteboard and you'll never get them off. Never mind stack them all together. They're really tough to pull apart. But one of the things that I think a lot of people who maybe have I think one of the first steps in engineering that everyone goes through is that self-doubt, that lack of confidence, but you consistently ask yourself the questions. I mean, when I was going for my professional registration, I genuinely didn't think I would ever be a C-Eng. I thought, go for Eng Tech, which is the entry grade. Maybe one day you'll be worthy of incorporated engineer status. And I started on the forms, took me many years because I was too busy working. When I went to do C-Eng, I had tried to reinvent a luminaire that went into a handrail, literally took the existing luminaire and went, that's a load of rubbish, throw that in the bin. Let's now do some 3D printing and come up with some new sketches and make lots of different options. And that actually now exists at Limehouse Station in England because we had it built and it's been installed. And one of the other things I did was I tried to redesign the RCD because I was having this resonance, this DC immunity problem. Now, at the time, I didn't think anything of it. And it was only when I did my application and it was that using existing or emerging innovative technologies in a different way. And there are so many things I can look at electrical installations and go, well, if you take that currently exists and that currently exists and put them together, you've got something different.
Yeah.
And it just needs more broader thinkers to be able to say it out loud without being afraid of being shot down, even if they don't know the journey they're on. Because those sorts of people will be the ones that actually will be successful when they go through their professional registration or go for their memberships or whatever they go for in life. They'll probably be very successful at it. And I think that's where in certain industry there's a lack of innovation, because you said you didn't do anything new, and I think one of the things you did to start with, but it's kind of a lot of industries and a lot of companies, they all define madness doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different outcome. And I genuinely believe if you're going to do different, do different. If you're going to be different, be different. And organically, things will come out to you are normal, but to others, they'll go, I can't think like this. My brain isn't wired like this. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about the diversity of all of the industries and engineering as a whole. It doesn't matter who or what you are. Everybody can produce and contribute such amazing things to make other people's lives better, whether it's a new way of heating a blanket for a pensioner or a breast pump for a bra. Do you know what I mean? And it's constantly evolving. Don't worry, John, we won't ask you to model it. That'll be me probably modeling that one. So
I would love to see both of you modeling it. I think you both
you can't get a bra to fit these man boobs, trust me. Not that I've tried. For all the blokes listening here, by the way, I haven't, but there you go. So
trying.
That's a private conversation for another day. Right. So you've developed basically using magnets something far better value to the NHS. So what's happened with it? Where has that gone? Has it gone into any form of prototype stages in use anywhere? Or is it still in testing and approval? Can you tell us any more about that?
That's the university to find out, shouldn't I? But so definitely where I left it, it was in a commercial stage. I should show you some pictures, actually. It just looks like loads of bare PCBs and like some oscilloscopes and loads of wires. Anyway, it was definitely a proof of concept, and we had an EPR signal through, and just seeing that, I mean, like we were kids and we did that, it was just so rewarding. And I think something that universities maybe need to, it would have been nice if they were better at, is like understanding what kind of help we would have needed to commercialize that, or to get it to a stage where it can be used by the NHS or be sold or some sort of kind of, practical value. But yeah.
Do you feel, got a question for you then, because what it sounds like is you've done something pretty cool. And you just said about you need to go and check with the university. It sounds to me like there could be a potential gap here where the universities and all the work and the cool work that the graduates do and all the just amazing people think up, there needs to be, recently in years gone by, we've heard this term quangos, kind of useless government departments. But I'd love to see a government department that is able to go around the country to universities and say, bring out your scraps of PCB, bring out what you've got and show us, and let's see if we can make these miracles happen. Because at some point, somebody turned around to Steve Jobs and went, what's that? Oh, it's an Apple computer. Yeah, that'll never work. Touchscreen phones, don't be stupid. I like buttons. What's wrong with it? I like to spin my dial on my phone. Now look, we couldn't be without most of this technology. And this isn't 50, 60, 70 years ago, someone bringing a bucket of coal home. This is 20 years ago, and we're running. For me, one of the things I find amazing and scary is look at where we were when I look at when I was 18 and I was like, oh, maybe I can afford my first mobile, to where I am now, and I'm 41, 42, 41. 42 next month.
Happy birthday.
There you go. Yeah, it's lots of snow on the mountain. I look for a hard life in the electrical industry. But it would be really interesting to see get a sneak peek where we're going to be in 20 years. Do you know what I mean? And with this technology, because
I want to live forever just to see the tech. Like, I don't want to be necessarily conscious or have conversations with people or still know anybody. I just want to be able to see the tech.
Yeah.
In 100 years, in 200 years, in 1,000 years, I want to see. I just love electronics. I just want to see where we're going to get.
So I'm a precautionary old bugger now, because one of the things that I am massively for technology that makes people's lives better and everything else. But the one thing I don't want to be doing is getting an implanted chip which can control me. I am a bit of a conspiracy theorist. Check out the poster. I want to believe X-Files, baby. Yeah.
Most people don't want things inside their body. I think that's a very fair thing to not want.
Yeah, I want the tech. I'm of a view that I want to use the technology, not the technology use me. Because if a technology uses me, I will lose maybe the skills that I kind of need to pass on to another generation. And don't get me wrong, these technologies can stimulate thoughts and different feelings, but I mean, John, what's your view on all this tech?
Well, like I said, a lot of this, like with your electrical resonance machine, a lot of it exists already. I think there's a certain thing where someone's made something and then it's like, oh, we've made it now and that's it. And there's not really any looking into, can it actually be improved or whatever. It's like, oh, we've made this device, that's fine, stick it on the thing and we'll just make them forever. But of course, that's all very well if you've just made the perfect thing. But of course, no one's actually looking into something that sort of, can we make this better, smaller, cheaper, whatever, then it's just going to be stuck there. So it's people like yourself that are then going to say, well, we can make it smaller or we can make it cheaper. And that's when someone thinks, oh, yeah, we could have done that. We could have done that 20 years ago, but no one actually bothered.
You know what I'm going to say to all this, and I've said it, and people have laughed at me. People have mocked me. Star Trek. Just rewatch Deep Space Nine and The Next Generation and absorb those wonderful things. Because let's be honest about it, you speak to NASA people and they go, "Oh, I grew up loving Star Trek." And for me, what do I say this all the time to people when people have debates and arguments about race and religion and culture, and I go, just adopt the Star Trek model. Nobody wants for anything. Everybody accepts everybody, even if they've got blue eyes and pink hair and scales and everything. It doesn't matter in Star Trek. And if Star Trek is an inspirational series from years ago, why the hell can't we adopt those principles? I mean, hello? We could do so much as a society working together. So a lot of people think I'm mad for saying that, but I always say to those people who think I'm mad, do one. But there you go. Right, so you have, I'm just gonna take a little moment here. So you have won, and because in our industry there's a lot of talk about influencers. Everybody seems, if you've got a YouTube channel, you're an influencer. John, you are, so just be. Shrouk, you have won the Da Vinci Engineering Award. You have won the IET Local Presenting Around the World. You were named as Young Woman of the Year by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. And this is awesome, by the way, and I will never top this, and I don't ever want to. You were named in the BBC top 100 most influential women in the world. If there's a BBC top 100 influential men, can I be 999, please? 1 point in my life. My life will be complete. That will be me. I'll be happy. So I think based on what I've read of you, you kind of a bit of a prodigy who's overcome a lot of barriers. You do a lot of work towards STEM. You were a STEM ambassador since 2011. You do a lot of STEM outreach projects. You teach maths to refugees. You do belly dancing, as you mentioned at the start, but the belly dancing is actually to raise funds for legal rights for an organisation called Bedaya.org. Bedaya.org, who do a lot of, well, they don't just do defense stuff, they do HIV outreach, they do educational programs, legal help and support. They've got some great values. I've read their website. They've got some very good values. You've
really done your homework.
I always do my research when I meet people, and I research the electrical industry as well. You're a trustee of the Student Action for Refugees. You spoke at Parliament. You've done stuff for universities. You're an LGBT plus rights activist, which is awesome. You do loads of activism. God, you make us. Do you know what? us E5 guys, we kick off about the electrical industry needing to be better. You put us to shame with the amount of activism you do.
No, no. It's just called it's just a little thing called ADHD, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that in all of us, to be perfectly frank. But one of the good things is you don't set you kind of smash every stereotype. You do genuinely smash stereotypes. You do. There's no, and this is what I love, that what you see isn't the engineering. It's what you hear, and what the impact on your life is, the real impact of engineers, to be honest with you. And that for me is one of the really cool things.
Oh, thank you. You're so
No,
sweet.
I've been called a lot.
I
I've
don't
been
think
called a lot of
anybody
things.
said
Sweet
that
isn't
like
one
that.
of them. Trust me. I've been called a lot of things. Just wait till we stop recording. Wait till John starts really going off on one. But anyway, right. So, is there any other bits? And if you were to give advice to your younger self, what would that be? It's a bit of a question thing now.
It's really hard because I feel as a younger person, I tried to do what I was supposed to do, and it wasn't working. So I came to this country as a child refugee. My claim took about 6 years to process, and just being next to other people who were my age who had completely different freedoms. I was forced into poverty. I was not allowed to work or claim benefits, and I had £5 a day to live on. Just like I wasn't allowed anymore. That was government. It just felt like I was being punished for seeking asylum, something that wasn't even my choice. I was a child. It was my family's choice. And I would argue if it is a choice. So I think not necessarily advice, just maybe a message of hope that it sorts itself out, because I feel there was just so much uncertainty. I never knew if it was going to be my last day in Wales. I never knew what tomorrow holds, and I never knew, when would my claim get processed. So I think it's message of hope. It gets better.
See, I've done as I think you probably realised, I've done a little bit of research. So I'm 5 of 10. Typical Irish family. They just couldn't stop breeding. And my family, we were by definition working class, single parent, absolute piss poor, on benefits. And I look at some of the stories of refugees, and I think we never had it so good in comparison. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people who we show as and I'm going to say this out loud, I'll probably get shot for saying this, but as a first world country, we're really crap at acknowledging the fact that for many, many, many hundreds of years, the United Kingdom, the Great British Empire, was basically plundering the riches and the wealth of the rest of the planet. And then and I'm sure I'm going to get some hate mail for saying this, but what the hell? We forget when people come over as immigrants and need help and support, we complain when we shouldn't, because that just shows the worst side of our humanity, and it shows a lack of humanity. And I just find that a bit freakish, because some of the best electricians one of the best electricians I know, I don't know if he listens to this actually, a guy called Marcin from Poland, came over here, faced every prejudice under the sun. Fast forward about 15 years, wife, 2 kids, mortgage, home, fought adversity, wonderful man, best electrician ever met.
Oh, sweet.
Simple as that. So I think one of the things. Go on, sorry.
I don't think so. I agree with you, and I think it's a shame, because a lot of the wealth that this country is built on is built upon taking it away from other countries. But at the same time, I don't want if I think it's still unfair that you grew up in that sort of setting. I think it's still unfair that you grew up in this sort of working class.
Don't let me listen. There were weeks where all we had was a loaf of bread and lard, and we would add fried bread sandwiches. We were absolutely piss poor. But looking back, compared to some of the poverty that is existing now, where people are using food banks, you have to wonder, well, you just said it yourself, life kind of finds a way, it sets itself right. And that for me is, I have become a firm, because I was raised in an Irish family, so you must go to church, you'll get B. I don't do that anymore. You know, I'm very accepting of any and all religions, because any and all religion fundamentally preaches good kindness. Otherwise, it's a bit of a crappy religion. Even even Jedi's, for God's sake, use the Force, not literal Force, but
You are funny.
it's no, but it's true. It is genuinely true. And one thing, I am a firm believer in karma, good karma and bad karma. I don't believe in wasting negative energy on people, but I do believe if negative energy comes near you, eventually karma, they will either spread it or attract it. And for me, I genuinely do believe in karma, and I have had some amazing examples of karma in my life where I was bullied once by a person I worked with very badly, and then that person many years later was asking me to help them find a job. Yeah, karma's a
Wow.
bitch.
Wow.
So
Of bullying, I actually, this is something I've only just started being public about. I almost quit engineering completely, and I wouldn't have been able to talk about any of the things I talk about today had I done that. But I worked for a person who just made me feel like I'm not good enough, or whatever I did, it was never going to be good enough. You know, I'd stay late at work and he'd be like, you know, I'm just staying late to make a point, or, you know, he'd be like, oh, you need to brush up on this stuff. Then, you know, I'd read it and be like, would you like me to read anything else? Then he'd kind of make fun of me reading this stuff, and it was just yeah, no, bullying is hard.
John, question for you: have you ever experienced bullying in that sort of form?
Not recently, but yeah, in the past we've had that. There's various problems. So certainly at school, that was common then. So yeah, but there's people like that around everywhere. So just avoid people like that, basically, because otherwise they'll just take over your whole life and completely ruin it. So
Yeah, one thing's that manager sounds like just an ego-driven
Oh,
arsehole. But
honestly,
then again,
that's
I've always
to me.
said that in society you've got egos and arseholes. Sadly, everybody's got one, and that's the trouble. Everyone's got an ego, everyone's got an arsehole. But I do one thing I've learnt in my career that I always give as advice is when you walk into a company or a building, look for the ABBA effect. Okay, now it's kind of a really weird term, but it's one I never forgot because a director of mine once sat me in a room and he said, you've really read the ABBA in the room. And I was like, do I start singing Waterloo now? What do I see? What's going on here? And he said, no. It's attitude, behavior, and agenda. And everybody's got an attitude, and you walk into a room and you look for the attitudes, you acknowledge and read the behaviors, and you look for their agenda. Once you've stitched that together, you then interject and contribute, and you always end up with the right outcome because you use facts and knowledge and principles rather than attitudes, behaviors, and agendas because everybody's got them. And I when I heard that, it kind of took a while for it to sink in, but it's bang on. I can sit in a meeting with 50 people and just stick my hand up at the end, having read the room, and before you know it, all of the outcome that they wanted, I ended up getting the outcome that should have been done. The common sense approach. Don't make it about you and your ego and you winning an award. Make it about the right thing for the taxpayer and the quality and the safety of what we do. So there's a little tip for anyone listening or watching, the ABBA effect. It does actually work. You can see it. Right, moving on because we're gonna wind this up. Well, we're gonna start to wind this up. I have a question that probes. A question that not even John Ward himself has been able to complete. It's the 3 wishes question.
Oh.
So, if you had 3 wishes for your sector, industry, trade, work-based, whatever, what would they be? Now you can't, just to be clear here, you can't say, I want loads of money, a flying carpet, and, you know, Tottenham to win the league.
Wait, why not?
Because that'll never happen. And I'm a Spurs fan, okay? It'll just never happen. Because I asked for that and I didn't get any of it. But if you had 3 wishes for your work-based sector or career or whatever, what would that be? And John did a very good one for the electrical industry, but he got to 2. And I would love to know if you had 3 wishes for your industry, your sector, for engineering, what would they be?
Oh, this is hard. 3 for electronics. So
It can
one
be engineering as well. It can be for women in engineering. It can be whatever you want it to be.
I would definitely like to see a lot less engineering arrogance. I'm not sure if you've encountered that.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm a big believer of, I could have spoken about this ESR machine and used a lot of jargon, which is what most people do. And I think it's kind of something, in engineering that people do to look smarter, and then other people are scared to ask questions because they don't want to look stupid. So yeah, definitely a lot less engineering arrogance.
Yep.
The other thing I would say, less degree focused, or appreciate more of the different styles of learning. So I think it's starting to change a bit now, but it's still so evident that we still look at somebody who's taken the route that I took, and I say luckily, the theoretical kind of 3-year university approach, masters kind of thing. We look so much higher on those kind of people, more than somebody who's come in through an internship route, more than someone who's come in through an apprenticeship route or polytechnic route. And you know what? I can't tell you how many times I've worked with people who came to the same company as apprentices, and stayed there as long as me, and they know way more. But somebody of my kind of route is more respected, even though honestly I knew less. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm not saying no. I just I think it'd be nice to
If you don't mind me chipping in there before you do your third one, I totally agree, because I don't have a degree. I don't have a HNC. I did a City and Guilds, which was a trade qualification. I've since done management and safety and quality and all that bolt-on CPD and development learning and all the rest of it, which has been great. But I have sat throughout my career in rooms with lots of people with master's degrees and all sorts, and you then go onto site and they go, "What's that? I don't know." And you're thinking, well, hang on a minute, you're held in such a high regard. Yeah. And when I used to work at Transport for London, and I'll name them and shame them now, Transport for London have something called C-Eng Club. And if you're not in C-Eng Club, you are basically pigeon poo on someone's shoe. And literally, I experienced this. I was the asset engineer for all electrical and mechanical systems. I was a member of the IET. I didn't have my chartership. And the minute I got my chartership, it was like this secret door opened and you were respected. It didn't make me, I didn't flick a switch and go, "Hey, I'm C-Eng now, gentlemen. Yes, blah, blah, blah. Let's use lots of quantum mechanic words and momentum and all these big, onomatopoeia. Let's just use lots of big words." No, it was a C-Eng club where you were treated lesser than chartered engineers. And that has got to stop. I mean, when I got my fellowship, it actually annoyed them. Okay, when I got my fellowship, I was sat down and told, "Don't tell everyone, you'll just annoy people." What? Thank you, Transport for London. Thank you, Transport for London. It's why I left, to be perfectly frank, because I was sickened by it. Not a pat on the back. Well done, son. We're proud of you. Don't tell everyone. Really? And my colleagues who were with me at the time knew exactly what I was going through. So you get it regardless of who or what you are, to be honest with you. And I find that engineering arrogance, that degree focus, don't let anyone tell you can't do jack because you don't have a HNC or degree. Your practical experience and your passion is the fuel that will drive an engine that no one can switch off. No one. And trust me, people have tried to shut my engine down loads of times. Your third one, my dear.
Okay. My third one, I would probably talk about the diversity, and not just because it'll be a nicer place to exist, but it's more economical. It makes more economic sense because diverse teams always outperform those that aren't. When we're talking about the things that I made before, there was lots of things that already existed, but it just needed somebody to look at it and be like, "But can I improve this?" And you're going to get a lot more of this when you've had many more different people who've had different walks of lives. So yeah, these are my threes. Did I do all right?
You've done really well. I'd just like to say you've done better than John Ward.
Yeah, I only got 2. So.
And I'm going to comment on the third one. The diversity one. So I grew up in Tottenham, which is the most diverse community in Europe. where when I was growing up, there were multiple languages, which was really cool. The first time I realized there was something called racism was when I was sent home from school for kissing my teeth, because my next door neighbors were Jamaican, and my mum walked out and I was 3 months old. So my dad put me with my next door neighbors who were from Jamaica. So up until the age of 4, my dad worked all the hours, and I developed a Jamaican accent and was kissing my teeth when I went to school. So I loved, Tottenham was an amazing place to grow up. It was really, really cool. None of us knew racism or anything like that. You know, I had a Portuguese mate, a Ghanaian friend. It was great. Italians, it was great. It was only when I started my apprenticeship that we'd heard about racism in like past history, that you saw it. And one of the things I've learnt over the years, and I've been quite disgusted by a lot of trade mentalities in regards to that. But there is a lot of rumor milling, Chinese whispering about different people from different cultures can and can't do things. And again, I've met people who've smashed that stereotype. But for me, diversity, I'll be honest with you, I had this view of, and I'll openly admit, and I'll probably get shot for saying it. I used to think to myself, maybe construction is not a great place for women. And then I met loads of kick-ass women who would have beat the crap out of me just for saying it. And I didn't know, because I had no experience in this. I now work in a company called Trenitalia, where there are more women and people from diverse backgrounds than there are white, overweight men. And I love it.
Working for Arab.
You are?
I thought you worked for Arab.
No, I work for a company called Trenitalia C2C.
You work for Arab Talk.
No. No, I don't work for Arab. Is there another Paul Meenan who works for Arab?
No. Oh, I just so you sent me a message on LinkedIn.
Yes.
That was right after I did a talk for Arab.
No, I sent you that LinkedIn message randomly.
That was random.
Yeah, well, it wasn't random actually. It was I saw your award ceremony, and I thought, right, I'm going to keep an eye, because there was something pretty cool about it. And then I thought, right, okay, do you know what? Perfect fit for the podcast and to talk about things. So it was just random. Just random.
Oh, no, it was such funny time, because I was getting a lot of really lovely messages, and yours was one of them. And I was
I had nothing to do with Arab whatsoever. I run a little railway that goes from Fenchurch Street all the way to Southend and Shoebury Ness.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
The one thing I love is the best person I've ever worked for is a wonderful lady who challenges me, a lady called Rachel, who challenges me in a way where she stops me and I'm dumbfounded and I'm thinking, oh, that's such a good way to think. I couldn't ever have thought about that. And that made me, I mean, me and Rachel now get on and we send each other all sorts of silly messages and we're good friends. And but diversity in the workplace genuinely can be an amazing thing, but you've just got to have an open mindset to that we're all human, regardless of what. Let's be fair. I've always said this: if you cut someone, regardless of what they are, they're going to bleed red. If you cut them open, they're all going to have the same organs. You know, if you say God, they're going to give it a different name, but it's all the same damn thing in principle. So why can't we all just get along? And I think diversity in the workplace definitely should be the norm. I don't agree with it being pushed or forced, because in some places, and again, should I throw them under the bus? We were told when we were at Transport for London that TfL was too white, which is pretty shocking for TfL to say to a majority white workforce that it was too white, and then when they were employing, they wouldn't actually look for white people. And we were like, do you know what? You're doing nothing for the cause here. You really are. So I'll probably never work for TfL again for saying that, but do one.
I'm just there like, I'm going to hide behind my unicorn.
There we go. She can hide. Right.
On it.
Mr. Ward, do you have any deep and probing questions other than my silliness?
Not really. I'll just say about that thing about, where people, like whether people have got degrees and all that kind of thing. I mean, even if people have been to university, there's still things even within that, because then it's like, oh, which university did you go to? And that's a better one than mine and all that kind of thing. So it doesn't matter what level you're at. There's always that kind of nonsense that goes on. And in the end, it doesn't make any difference at all. It's about the person themselves, not necessarily because they went to a particular place at one time or they did a certain thing or whatever else. So, yeah, it's one of those attitudes that a lot of people have, which needs to go away, really. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
I worked for someone who used to say, just because you collected all the coupons off Rice Krispies, don't make you an expert in Rice Krispies. It was a very random thing to say, but do you know what? It stuck with me for many, many years, and it's very true, actually. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling now. Shrouk, do you have any questions for us, or any final thoughts or messages you would like to say?
Oh, it's been great. Thank you so much for having me.
We try to be random and weird and entertaining, as well as deep, meaningful, and technical. Sometimes we get it completely wrong and it's a car crash, but hey, I've enjoyed today.
Me too. Thank you.
Awesome. Right. So, everybody should know how this finishes. JW, you're a legend as always. Shrouk, thank you very much, my dear, for coming on. And where can we find you on social media?
Ooh, I'm at Dancing Queer Official on Instagram, facebook.com/dancingqueer, at Shrouk ELA on Twitter, and Shrouk el Attar on LinkedIn. Woo, that's a lot.
So we will put some links in the YouTube video below. And if anybody gets a chance, please check out the Wikipedia page if you want to know more. And also Bedaya.org is a great charity. If you can log on there, have a look at what they do, maybe even make a donation, that would be awesome. And that's me, that's JW, that's Shrouk. Thank you again. And until the next time, take care of yourself and each other. Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye.
And that